Okay. Parrot TV, the voice for humanity.
Hi, welcome to Parrot TV's Literary Corner. Today we have Dustin Pickering, who is your noble and honest host, speaking with featured writers Chyrel Jackson and Lyris D. Wallace, who are avid lovers, readers, and writers of African American literature. They grew up in a southern suburb of Chicago, Illinois, Country Club Hills. As young girls, they read Nancy Drew, Hardy Boys, and Judy Blume novels. College was the first real scholastic awakening, introducing these two literary enthusiasts to the literary works of their great ancestors, James Baldwin, Toni Morrison, Maya Angelou, and others. These writers influenced Chyrel and Lyris so much, it only makes sense that they would now be writing in the spirit of these ancestors, giving a voice to social issues that plague our modern time. Their latest self-published works are books of poetry, mirrored images, and different sides of the same coin. Both books mirror messaging, no pun intended, ranging from a host of life topics, relationships, frayed familial dynamics, juggling life, single parenting, racism, etc. Some have said their books are reminiscent of Harlem Renaissance revisited. Their anthologies of poems pair current social and living conditions with poetic verse. In this volume, the sometimes darker sides and motives of human nature are also addressed. Well, it's wonderful to talk with you both today. How are you guys doing?
Good. How are you?
Doing excellent. It's wonderful to speak with a couple of poets as usual today. We've got two poets instead of just me and one other. So it's wonderful to have a good set of voices here. So what drew you to poetry originally? Specifically, I mean, the Harlem Renaissance and the African American experience.
Laura? Well, what drew me is once I was in college and I was able to pick literature courses that more fit my own experience, because I never experienced really a lot of Black literature. You know, when I was in high school, I took a lot of literature courses, and it was, you know, Shakespeare and, you know, Edgar Allan Poe and things like that. And there's, you know, I don't have a problem with that. I love that too. Mm-hmm. But it didn't really keep my interest because it was something that I could not relate to. So once I got in college and I started taking literature courses, and I discovered, you know, Nikki Giovanni, Sonia Sanchez, James Baldwin, I really was like, this is an amazing experience. And I was like, I really have to be a part of it. So that's kind of what drew me.
Excellent. So Crystal, would you like to answer that? Or Chyrel, I'm sorry, I called you Crystal. Chyrel, would you like to answer that as well?
Me and Laura, our stories are very similar. For me, sophomore year of college at DePaul University, when I walked into my literature class with Dr. O'Brien, and James Baldwin was sitting with his legs crossed in the front of the class. Sophomore year was pretty major for me. And I was a nervous mess because I read his books, and here I am standing in front of one of the literary greats in African American literature of all time. And so speaking with him and just sort of after that meeting, and then after hearing him in our lecture hall that day, there was just no way that I was not going to be part of it. I had to be, I just felt compelled. I have to utilize my voice as best as possible to write about things of our time in a truthful way that people just generally probably wouldn't be paying attention to. I wanted to be part of it. So that's why.
Right. And speaking of meeting with the greats, I actually met Nikki Giovanni at a hotel a couple of years back. I was at a poetry festival in Austin, and she was the featured guest. and I got to shake hands with her, and I told her I loved her lecture. That was about the, the gist of the conversation. It was really nice to meet her. She was quite a, very nice person, very friendly. She insisted she wasn't in her lecture. She kept saying, I know you guys think I'm nice, but I'm not nice. But she was very nice. She really was.
She's
So are there,
she's one of our favorites, and my sister was grabbing her chest because she's like, "Oh my God, you need to be a body." That's her favorite.
excellent. Yeah, I've read about half of her collected poetry, and it was a funny meeting because the first time she walked behind me, and I was on the computer at the hotel, and I was kind of doing a character voice with my friend. I was doing this kind of dumb redneck, like, "Oh, there's one of them poetry readings out here right now. We can't have them poets playing their games around here." And I was just being silly, She walked behind me. I don't know if she thought that was really me or just, I don't know if she thought that it was a character I was doing. But then later on, I met her and actually spoke with her and shook her hand and said I enjoyed her lecture. So it was kind of funny. I wasn't expecting her to come behind me like that, and she sat down, and it was really nice little event. That was fun. So, who are some Harlem Renaissance poets that you originally got into?
Langston Hughes for me. Langston Hughes for my sister as well. There are others, but for me, him definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Lucille Clifton, I love her. But,
Yes.
Sonia Sanchez. I mean, she's
Oh my God.
someone that I absolutely love. So for Lyris, it's Nikki Giovanni, but for me, it's Sonia Sanchez and Langston Hughes.
Well, that's interesting. You have have diverged in a different taste. Is there any kind of, do you guys have like really, even though you're sort of listening to reading the same movement, do you have a different taste, or do you just enjoy, some of the same poetry, or?
Well, Chyrel and I are sisters, and we
Right.
grew up sort of reading the same thing. And Chyrel influenced me a lot of what I like to read, for the simple fact that when I was growing up, I didn't like to read. I didn't like to read because when they taught us to read, they taught us how to speed read. And I wasn't good at speed reading. And my sister was. And I would always read slower than her. And so I guess it's always been kind of like, as much as we love one another, we still kind of have that competition with each other. So she could finish like that, and I was still reading, and I hated always losing to my sisters. So I hated reading. So in order for me to read more, that's why I took 5 literature classes in the same semester in college, because I wanted to force myself to read. And it was during that time when I discovered all of this lovely Black literature. And so that influenced us to write, because actually both of us were writing, but we didn't tell the other one that we were. So I sort of presented my work to my sister. She was like, "Oh, this is really good." And then she said, "We should do a book." We always wanted to write a book, but we didn't know it was going to be a poetry book. That's
interesting. So it just sort of birthed itself and spontaneously there. It just kind of happened as you both were putting some poems together, and you decided to collaborate a little bit. So what are some social issues that you feel are pertinent to understand in the contemporary world through poetry? What do you address in your book, some of the social issues?
Sure.
For me, it would definitely be a lot of the law enforcement engagement that ends up in the police killing. That's a big one for me personally. I write a lot about those. I write a lot about, you're just sort of judged before you even open your mouth on sight. You're judged. You're placed in a box. And so we write to sort of change that narrative. Not all Black women are of a criminal element. Some of us have gone to college. Some of us have graduated from college. Some of us write books.
Right.
So we write to just bring a different narrative to the table.
Right.
Quite frankly, as Black women, we see a whole different layer of racism, but it impacts us the same way. We just write, we just give a voice to it. So we write about George Floyd being executed, a modern day lynching in 2020. That's basically what we all saw. So that's what we write about. We write about things like that, Trayvon Martin, Tamir Rice, so we write about what impacts us that make headline news. People tend to move on from it and have dinner in their living rooms, but we're still within our community, we're still trying to grasp and understand how in 2021 we're still fighting these same old fights that James Baldwin was writing about in the 1950s.
It's interesting hearing a different perspective. Obviously I'm a white male, so I don't really encounter that with police or with a lot of society. So hearing somebody say something of this nature, it's not really, I won't say it's foreign to me, but it's definitely a very different experience. And I read a lot about the various kinds of racism out there, but I've never personally experienced it. So I think poetry, one of the key elements of poetry is it makes that a living experience. I mean, you can present it in a way that's emotional to rather than statistical or reading like 10 such and such a day or whatever. You can actually read an experience of someone writing about what they feel also about what's going on, and it can present the narrative in that fashion. And I think that makes it more powerful than just reading the statistics or hearing the news program say so and so, such and such, whatever. It feels very abstract in a way.
Right.
So would you like to share a poem, you guys? Which one of you wants to go first?
I always like my sister to go first.
Okay.
All right, thank you. This is one of my poems that where I'm dealing with like social justice or whatever. Okay, and this poem is called Exhale, and it's in our current book, Mirrored Images. It says, I need a minute, just 1 minute, 60 seconds to exhale, to breathe in and breathe out, to breathe in and breathe out. For 4 long years, I held my breath, bit my nails, and sat on the edge of my seat. What was he going to do next? Or what was he not going to do that needed to be done? What brand new lie was he going to tell? How many more racist dog whistles was he going to blow? 4 years. 4 very long years. 1,460 days. 35,040 hours. Over 21 million minutes and a gazillion seconds. Wondering, holding my breath, what horrible fallacy will I wake up to today? What delusional proclamations or hate-filled affirmations will take center stage and be on repeat until I close my eyes tonight? From his battle cries of stand back and stand by, he has consistently shown us who he is. Mollycoddling white supremacists, admiring and idolizing dictators, sending private militias to pepper spray and beat and arrest peaceful protesters, all leading up to the grand finale of inciting a racist mob of insurrectionists to storm the Capitol, while we simultaneously leaving thousands upon thousands of Americans to die from his lack of empathy. So yes, I need a minute. One long and well-deserved minute. 60 seconds to breathe in the new air of a new administration. A minute to inhale this 21st day of 2021 in the month of January. I need to exhale the racist, separatist rhetoric that was his leadership. To breathe in the promise of unification, love, and the lifting up of a nation instead of tearing it down. I need to breathe in hope, a hope that started with my ancestors as they bent over in the fields of despair, so I can stand tall in the meadows of possibility. And with that, I slowly begin to exhale.
I can feel the sort of the suppressed rage going on there and anger, I can really feel in your voice, especially, and the presentation is really good. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you.
And
Thank
obviously
you.
that's the last 4 years, that's the last presidency you're referring to in that poem.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
So Chyrel, would you like to share a poem as well?
Sure. My sister was reading, and I kind of was inhaling while she was reading. Because you just, it's like you're still holding your breath. I can't say that for everybody, but I still am very much so holding my breath. So when she read that, I was like, wow, you just kind of want to let your shoulders down and kind of exhale. You don't know.
Very interesting metaphor going on there.
I agree. I'm going to read from our book, Mirrored Images. I'm going to read A Slave Master by Any Other Name. Before the scars from the white slave master's whips across our backs, no longer 1619, but preferred lynching methods now practiced by white police are kneeling upon weary and fragile black necks. Do I dare state what is most obvious? 2021, and Black folks still not free. Our documented flight and founding fathers' history. A slave master by any other name is still indeed a slave master just the same.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
Wow, powerful. Thank you for sharing that. Powerful. So why did you guys choose to self-publish instead of try with traditional or small press publisher?
Okay, Dustin, I'm going to give you like the real answer, and it's not going to be all practice, polished, and politically correct.
Okay, go for it.
And you have to pardon this metaphor, but for me, the traditional publishing route was very much like being on an auction block. And we're mature writers. We are mature, grown adult women. The idea of some 20-year-old sitting in a chair telling me that I could and could not say this word, telling me how many pages it needed to be, what needed to be edited. They weren't comfortable with me writing the N word and the like, was just a no starter for both of us. And we tried that, but they wanted to sort of silence our voices and change the narratives.
Right.
And there's not truth in a story that if I can withstand being called the N-word, and I'm called that, and I write a poem with that language in it, that's my truth. That's right. What I live. How dare you tell me that that's something that you're not comfortable publishing?
Right.
Right.
I'm writing from my experience. I'm writing from my truth. And that happened to us quite a bit. And that's when we both and I'm very strong-willed. And I think about probably like the third time that we sat in meetings with that sort of overall understanding that they would kind of curtail and edit what story, the narrative of our story.
Right.
That really made us feel very uncomfortable. And, newsflash, readers they're very smart. So they know when something isn't really authentic, or when you're sort of kind of faking an experience that you're writing about. And so for me, I wanted the raw, real truth of what we've lived. And so self-publishing for us, Dustin, was really the only option that we were going to take.
Right. So it was just about the independence and being able to control your voice and what you could say and present to the reader authentically.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
Yeah, that is definitely a good, plus for the self-publishing, and plus you get to manage the money side of it. I think the only downside I've heard, and I've been involved in myself, is you have to do a lot of marketing and self-promotion, which is a lot of work, but you have to do it with the traditional publishers as well. It's just they set you up a little bit and give you kind of a boost, I think, but it's not really worth it to take the words out and edit and cut it up and do whatever and make it a little, I guess palsy it a bit, make it a little thinner than it's supposed to be, or that it's intended to be. Right. So, this is kind of a companion question. Why do you write about the darker side of human nature?
I don't think, no, you know what? We write, that's just a part of our writing. We're writing from our experience as we have encountered it. So when you read our book, you won't always find poetry like we just read. There's a lot of lighter things in the book. I do a lot of things about, my son. There's some poetry, written about my son. There's poetry written about our mother, our father. There's poetry written about how we're encouraging young Black girls to love themselves. That, they don't have to change anything about themselves. They are fine just the way they are. So we do a lot of that. Growing up, I was bullied because I was overweight as I was growing up. So I experienced a lot of bullying in that. And so in my writing, I encourage young Black girls that, to love themselves, that whatever they are at this particular moment, they don't have to be a size 10. They don't have to look like, Naomi Campbell. They are fine the way they are. So we do have some lighter writing. As a matter of fact, we paid tribute to our dad, who while we were writing this book, we were taking care of him. He was dying of prostate cancer, and we were taking care of him. And so a lot of that experience is in the book. And we paid tribute to, our blues ancestry, the B.B. King and Johnny Lee Hooker. We do a lot of that. That is the theme throughout our book, is the blues. So it just so happens that is a part of our lives too, because that affected us as we're sitting home taking care of our father. We're sitting on the couch watching George Floyd experience what he's experienced. And it wasn't just him, the Ahmaud Arbery, all of these things just kept coming over the airwaves. And this is what, bombarded us on a daily basis.
Right.
So, when you're experiencing that, and plus when you're in a position of helplessness where you can do nothing to help your people.
Right.
All you can do is write about it.
And
so that's what
I just wanted to say, piggyback off of what Lyris, my sister, just said. Our job, Dustin, as writers, is to reflect and write about what is true in the moment as it is really occurring. That is what our job is. Right now, we have people, some legislators, which are kind of working hand in hand right now to not only turn back our voting rights, but to sort of kind of whitewash our history
Right.
on American soil being descendants of slavery. They're trying to change that narrative in such a way to say, oh, well, that wasn't such a bad, slavery wasn't such a bad experience.
Right.
In God's name, if we as writers, particularly Black African-American writers, if we don't tell the truth,
right, it won't be told.
It won't be told.
Right.
So we are compelled. That is what our calling is. It is to record and truthfully detail
Exactly.
actual facts. And so, like my sister said earlier, we don't just write about social justice issues. I'm big on love. I believe in love. I married the love of my life. We, you know, I love my nephews. I write a lot of stuff that don't have anything at all to do with racism, social issues, social injustice, or necessarily the Black experience. These are a lot of our poems are definitely universal and just human, just part of the human experience. So a lot of those as well. It's not, we're not just a one-trick pony, or there's just one type of writing that we do. But Harlem Renaissance is something that we both enjoy, and we spent a lot of time studying. And so those writings definitely influence the type of writers that we are today.
Wonderful. It's definitely powerful to express in the moment what's going on, especially when you're being pushed into the dirt, and you're being told by editors like, hey, you can't say these things, you can't talk about this. It's a very tricky experience. I can totally understand that. Like I said, I'm white male. I don't get as much of this kind of stuff as my my Black brothers and sisters get. It's very tough to see a lot of the oppressive and repressive stuff going on right now. Especially, it seems like we look back to the 50s or something happened. I don't know what's going on, how this took place, but we have remaining about 4 minutes or so for the interview. So I was going to ask, do you guys have plans for another book?
Oh, sure. We definitely have plans for another book. We're kind of going to take a break because this was kind of heavy with all the stuff we had going on with our father passing and dying. And we're going to both do individual things, but we come back together because we're better together. So we definitely want to kind of put the poetry genre down just for a second, because that will always be a part of who we are. But we're going to do a fictional or non-fictional family drama. So, that'll be fun because it's loosely based on real life. So it'll be a lot of sauce and high drama in that. And so we're looking for it. That is, If These Walls Could Talk. We are definitely working on that. And so we'll do that together. That'll be like our next release together.
If Walls Could Talk?
If these walls could talk.
If These Walls Could Talk. Wow, that's a good title. Excellent title. I think it's perfect for a nonfiction kind of exploration, and wonderful. So it's been wonderful having you both on the show. And if you guys want to say some thank yous to family, friends, supporters out there, and just thank people for encouraging you, or impart some words of wisdom to our fellow writers out there, there's a little time for that.
Well, we definitely want to say thank you, Dustin, for having us.
Wonderful having you. Thank you.
Thank you on Parrot Literary Corner. We just really are appreciative of that. And we love, 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 love our supporters, all of them, and all of the people that have brought our books, different sides of the same coin, and our current book, which is Mirror Images. We want to say thank you to them as well.
Wonderful. Do you want to say anything, Lyris?
I just I echo the same thing that my sister just said. Thank you for all of the support, and thank you for having us on your show. I really appreciate that. And I thank my sister because she's sort of, the marketer, she gets us out there and keeps us in front of social media and all that. So God has really blessed me with the best sister in the whole world. So I just wanted to let her know that I appreciate her and everything that she does.
Wonderful. That's wonderful. I'm sure she appreciates you as well.
Yep. I love my sister. And you can get our book. Our book is available right now on Amazon. It's available on Google Books. We're at Walmart.com.
Okay.
You have those places where you can actually get the book if you so choose to.
Excellent. I think you can actually also, if it's on Amazon, you can have independent booksellers order it as well. You can go in and ask them to order it and bring it to you, and they'll get a little chunk of change for that, I think, too. So that's something I always try to get people to do, is go that route if they can. But thank you again for joining us today. It's been pleasant talking with you, and keep up the good work and keep up the fight for justice and for the sake of literature and for the sake of humanity. We've got to keep it up, so keep it up. And this has been—
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. It's been pleasant talking with both of you. This has been Parrot Literary Corner. I'm Dustin Pickering, and remember, our anthology is available. Our first series 1, The Literary Parrot, is available on Amazon as of August 1st. If anybody out there wants to take a look at a copy we have, you can always buy it for $18. You guys out there listening in, you can buy it, or you guys there that on our guests on our show, you can buy it. We'll have a series 2 pretty soon in December. So you guys are also welcome to submit something for that later on. We'll get in touch about that. So we're having series 2 in December. And if you haven't subscribed, everybody out there needs to subscribe. We're looking for 1 million subscribers. And that means if you're viewing this program and you haven't subscribed, we want you to subscribe and share our content. So please do that. And as well, we can do donations through paypal.me/nyparrot. And that link will be in our website or on our YouTube channel. So check it out, and definitely be in touch with me if you want to be a guest on the show. That would be Literary Corner at NewYorkParrot.com. So be in touch with me, and if you want to make some comments on our videos or give us a thumbs up, tell us what we're doing wrong, what we're doing right. Let us know what you think. We're more than happy to listen to what you have to say. So thank you all for listening in, and thank you to our guest today. It's been very pleasant talking. We had 2 guests today, sisters who had wonderful things to say about literature and social justice. So we'll guys keep in touch. And this has been the New York Parrot Literary Corner. I'm Dustin Pickering, your host, signing off.
Parrot TV, the voice for humanity.